Should we go? Should we start? So, good afternoon, everyone.
And welcome to our session. It is design or detail that we'll be discussing. So the trends driving today's watch industry. Today we'll be exploring what's shaping the world of modern watchmaking, from the aesthetics that capture attention to the technical intricacies that win our hearts. Joining me, I have four brilliant voices from across the horological spectrum. I have Dave. I see you're all set in the wrong order now, so I'll go from the end. We have Jess Chow, who's the co-founder of Vieren, the Canadian brand redefining the automatic watch with sleek, minimalist design and a modern lifestyle appeal. I highly recommend you go and see her stand and ask her all about the Rehort ring, which we can maybe discuss later in terms of the design. We have Dave Sharp from Horage, a brand renowned for its technical ingenuity and Swiss-made precision with a modern twist. We have Kalust Zorik, the co-founder of Kerbedanz. Kalust is also a leader in Swiss high horology, whose work bridges craftsmanship, symbolism, and storytelling approach to fine watchmaking. And last, but by no means least, the very dapper Guy Allen from Elliot Brown, known for rugged, purpose-built, hard as nails. You can do whatever you like to those watches, they will still work. And that's why the military use them. You can use that now. So, kicking us off, let's just set the scene. And Jess, actually, if we could start with you. Obviously, the title for today's session is Design or Detail. Which comes first for your brand and why?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Chow. I think it's a bit of a trick question for us. I think really design for Vieren is in the details, especially for something as small as timepieces. Every millimeter counts. So really, it's about telling a story through the subtle details of a timepiece.
Dave? Now that she's got the detail one out, you've got to go around that.
I think for us, we take a very different approach, probably very opposite to what the standard is we design the engine or the core part of the watch. We're an engineering business primarily. So for us, it's about the technical developments of what we do in terms of the chronology of the watches. And the design doesn't come after, but it's not our primary point. The design of the product is we've kind of pushed away from having a centralized core design concept for the brand, and we produce products for a specific use, which means that you have a very wide-ranging kind of portfolio of design language, which some folk can accuse of being confusing, but it means that each product has a specific purpose.
Okay, and so Kalust, how do you define good design in a watch today?
So just an introduction. Yes, I am the co-founder of Kerbedanz and the president. But I don't want to talk too much about Kerbedanz right now, because at the same time, I found the Swiss Watch Marketing Symposium 30 years ago. Since 30 years, we are doing conferences yearly and discussing and developing subject which will be interesting for the future of the watchmaking. The last one, the 29th edition, was 10 days ago. And imagine what was the subject. Marketing. Art of time, time of art. So I want to bring you here the conclusion of this symposium more than, because all the ingredients we are applying by Kerbedanz also. A lot of specialists came to talk about this subject. 3 words for the conclusion: art infusion is vital for the watchmaking industry. Arts everywhere. Where are the arts? First, on the design. When you talk about the design, you look this, you see this. You see lines, you see forms, you see colors, and this is we called habillage, dressing a watch. So already the art has to be included in the dressing the watch. but it's not enough. Just 2D is not enough. The second thing, it has to be wearable, of course. The watch has to be wearable. This is a design issue. The second thing is that the metal is not a beautiful element by itself. You have to work this ugly metal to make it very attractive, beautiful, worked, polished, angled, sculptured, to make it more attractive. This is the decoration arts. You should do chamfreining, guillochage, etc., to bring this beauty to the metal. The third art element are also materials. If you want to give an image, an impression, you have to have the right material to work about. And a lot of new materials are used in the watchmaking industry, from the gold, ceramics, Kevlar, whatever you want. They are using a lot of new materials. And to finalize everything, I will join you that the choreography of time is done by the movement. That's why this, how many designers, I don't know, who will take the responsibility to mix all these things together, I don't know. Art director, what we call the chief designer, in order to mix the vision of our movement developer in a dress which can fit properly, a decoration which makes the things beautiful, attractive, exceptional, and new materials to be in the head of the revolution. So these were the 4 elements we reached during our last conference.
Amazing. Well, the thing I like is who you're sat next to, and you describe ugly metal. I'm a big fan of ugly metal, particularly when it's functional, robust, and reliable. And your brands couldn't be further apart.
Well, strangely, I was listening to that, and I thought everything he said. Because whilst we make, to say predominantly military watches is unfair. We make a lot of watches that are not, but you know, it's a big part of who we are. And you're right, we are quite ugly metal. But equally, we've got to be refined. We've got to have that level of art. We've got to have that element of new materials and all the things that you mentioned, but a lot more subtly because of who we are catering for. So for me, right now, it's about texture. It's about case finishes. You know, recently we were in New York, and there's a young man who started a watch brand. I forget the name of it, but he's using titanium, and it's stone-washed titanium, and it looks so cool. It really does. So there's lots of opportunity by taking ugly metal and turning it into something that's got more of a talking point to it, that's got more interest to it, that's got texture, that's got light and dark, and it doesn't have to take it away from being a more military-looking watch or a more tool watch or an extreme sports watch. But again, everything you said. I think it doesn't matter where we are in marketing in our own segment, but all those things that you mentioned are vital components to get our customer to love what we do. I think that's...
Jess, how do you see certain trends at the moment influencing the watch industry? And as you know, touching on, we talked about materials and movements and aesthetics and sustainability. How does that affect your side of the business?
Of course. I think as the only woman on the panel, as well as the only millennial, I think different trends affect different people. For us, we're really about modernist design. So we take elements of art, architecture, and cultural relevance and really bring that to the really traditional world of timepieces, trying to kind of push the boundaries from a design perspective. We are the only ones that are really doing kind of the more rectangular shape right now, and bringing in kind of those clean lines, as well as highlighting, you know, the traditional automatic movement. So bringing in the Swiss craftsmanship, as well as the modern design element. My creative director, Sunny Fong, he's actually a fashion designer by trade. So not only does the watch need to function well, but it has to beautifully sit on your wrist. So we really think about things like fit, silhouette, and love what you said about looking at the watch from multiple angles, because it's really about those tiny details that make a watch special.
Dave?
I think for us, wearability, like you said, I think that's actually one of the most important things. You can make the most pretty looking watch in the world. If it doesn't wear well, you just won't wear it. And you end up with a pretty ornament rather than actually a wearable watch. And that's so common. There's a lot of watches out there that you see and you think, that's very good. I'll not name the brands, but there's a other high, well-known brand that they make a watch that I love. And I've the number of times I've gone to buy it and I put it on my wrist and I go, no, just not willing to do it, doesn't feel comfortable, I just won't wear it. So I think, like beauty and elegance, but also aesthetics in the eye of the beholder. I think ugly metal, I would have described it more as brutalist.
Yes.
It's like, but, I've got friends, architecture is another big area where, aesthetic is a huge sphere. Mm-hmm. Brutalist architecture is not exactly pretty in the traditional sense of the word, but, we've now got buildings that are listed because of their ugliness. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very difficult to always judge. The beauty of the watch industry is you can do 1,000 different things and someone somewhere is going to like it. And for me, I think when you design an aesthetic of a watch, it should elicit response, positive and negative. And if it doesn't give you a negative response somewhere, you're probably playing it too safe.
Guy, okay, Kalust, go.
Now I'll come back to Kerbedanz. In Kerbedanz, our vision is to bring a micro-mechanical show on your wrist. This is not the same like Hermes. Hermes did a great product lately, but they hide everything. It's another way of looking to the complexity. We wanted to give access to the people who lost the passion of micromechanics, who lost because they disappeared. You can have the best car today in the world. Your father's experience of opening the hood and fine-tuning the engine, it's over. Today you have to bring your computer to talk to your car. So what is the last location where a mechanical show can exist is your wrist. So that's why we developed the largest tourbillon in the world. It's our movement, we have 2 patents on it, and we push the limits so far that even the components, which is displayed in the entrance, that the components that you cannot see are decorated. They are angled, they are treated first for the art for art, art pour l'art. And the second thing, because this real small operations make the movement work even better. We hate the square shape of the metal. We spend a huge time to break those angles. It's called anglage or chamfering in order to have it smooth here, to not have after small metals coming into the movement and disturbing you in the future. So we pushed the boundaries very far. I'm lucky. I have to say I'm lucky because I have my partner, co-founder with me, who has the engineering, design capabilities, and our watchmaker also. And he's spending a huge effort to create harmony. Harmony with a complex movement, already well treated, but also in the habillage, in the dressing, to have another harmony. Here on the titanium watch, you have 3 types of different treatment to make it attractive. You are using the polishing, we are using the sablage, sablage, it's another treatment, and matte to have this 3 colors in order to give an impression. So we have a responsibility to the audience we selected. For our audience, we have to offer the best creation in the world. And we are happy also to do very unique creation for our collectors. Today we have a very wide collector group, and we are very happy to serve them.
Thank you. Speaking of collector group, have you noticed shifts in your consumers and your collector group within your segment?
Yes, for definite. Just before I mention that, I think again, I would have liked to sit at the other side because he's saying some very interesting things. I think we are, out of the 4 of us, the most constrained by our form. You know, we are extreme sports watches, and you can't make rectangular or square extreme sports watches successfully. We have you know, all our watches are 200-meter water resistant. All our watches have what we call the movement shield inside, which is a shock protection system. So we are very much constrained by our form. But yes, we have seen a lot of change over the course of the last 2 years. You know, 14 years ago when we started, all our watches were 44 mil. Today, that looks like a dinner plate. You know, it looked perfectly fine then. So we are recreating a lot of our original designs now in 39 and 40 mil. We are a lot of what we do is driven by our community or driven by requests. So our Beachmaster, which is one of our most successful models, was born out of a conversation with the Royal Marines, which is, can we create a watch which has a countdown and count up timer on it at the same time? And we fortunately, it was lockdown, so we had a lot of time on our hands, and we came up with a way of doing it, and we have a patent on the timing part of that movement. But it just goes to show that it's our community who are asking us to drive forward things, requests that they have. And that's ever thus. Smaller cases, texture, case treatments. We've just summited Everest with a tegimented case in our Holton collection, and it's come back. We're auctioning the watch, and it's slightly embarrassing because it looks like it's just come out of the box for the first time. It doesn't, you know, we were hoping it was going to come back scarred and looking like it had lived a life. It hasn't. It looks absolutely brand new. So, but we are testing ourselves with new materials that we haven't done before. We're looking at creating with some interesting titanium, some interesting carbons. I found a company in Lithuania that makes some really very interesting carbon composites. So yeah, so again, driving in the way that we can, but by being constrained by our form, interesting things.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that obviously there have been some significant advances in carbon, composites, ceramics, titanium. Dave, question for you. How are those advances actually now influencing design?
I think it's fair to say most of the kind of, I guess, innovative use of materials has broadly been in the cases, the bracelets, sometimes the dials. You know, tantalum, aluminium, sorry, British audience. You know, titanium's become de facto. 10 years ago, titanium was the new material or one of the newer materials. Ceramics become reasonably mainstream. Carbon's kind of getting there now. It's still relatively new. And you've got all these variations of thermoplastics and bioplastics and environmentally friendly materials. We're beginning to, though, utilize those materials in the calibers themselves. So, you know, silicon is probably the first major non-metal component that's been utilised broadly within the watch industry now, especially within the kind of escapement assortments. It's still far from common, to be brutally honest with you. There's 5 brand stroke groups that have any form of silicon engineering of any value, and we're one of the few that has silicon in totality through our entire product range. Almost nobody else has that. But we're beginning to use things like yourselves. We also have a completely in-house tourbillon, which we were one of the first to use titanium for the tourbillon cages. You know, famously the 0.29 gram tourbillon cage, lightest in the world, but still using brass. Unfortunately not very stable because it was so thin that it lost its effective stability as a caliber. So we use titanium. You can use more of it, you're more stable, and you keep the weight down. But we're also investigating the use of ceramics within tourbillon cages, so actually building the entire tourbillon assembly from ceramic, which is something that pretty much, I'm sure folk have played with it, but no one's actually managed to get it to work yet. We're nearly there. And also the use of silicon composites for flexible gears. A brand with a crown made a big announcement at Watches and Wonders this year about, you know, Ligatech technology and using flexible gears. That's not new. They would have you believe that that is all new and no one's ever done it, but all of our watches have a flexible Ligatech gear for backlash in them, but using using hard engineering to solve problems that have been in mechanical watches for centuries that you will never solve by continuing to use metal. You just will not solve those problems. So using real high-end engineering and, you know, a lot of computational fluid dynamics, which isn't a word that I probably thought I would say to this audience, but using that to model fundamental ingrained problems in calibers that without that will not go away. So that's where we're putting a lot of technical resource is into that side of things. Making cases isn't easy, and, you know, making beautiful cases is definitely not easy, but it's a whole different level of kind of scale and precision that you have to use these materials on a much smaller scale. When, you know, we're operating in a 2-micron category. There's no other industry in the world that operates at that level of tolerance for every part in the actual component you're doing. They may have one part that gets into the sub 5 micron in the medtech industry, but nobody operates. Our machines run longer just stabilizing than they run making things, which is the bit that no one quite understands, is why does everything take so long? A main plate takes 90 seconds to machine. You run the machine for 7 hours to stabilize it to make one part that takes 90 seconds. That's where the time comes in. And, you know, the room temperature changes by more than 1 degree, the parts are in the bin. So it's using material science to try and remove failure in manufacturing, especially in movement manufacturing, is, to be honest, the only way that we're not going to see prices continually go through the roof in this industry, because nothing's getting cheaper.
Jess?
Yeah, I think in terms of innovation, unlike these gentlemen here, we're independent brands, so we don't have the resources necessarily to make an in-house movement. But we really try to take a creative approach to how to show our ETA movement differently. So our stereo collection, for example, the one I'm wearing now, we actually were inspired by vintage analog speakers. So what we did was we actually, instead of having the dates go around, we actually etched the dates of the month along the inside barrel here. And it resembles that of an analog speaker. And there is a white line that actually goes around the dial that shows the date of the month, and it resembles that of a volume meter on an actual speaker. So really try to play into the design elements and make it fun and interesting, and really bringing in that Swiss craftsmanship, but from a different point of view.
Kalust, I think it's only fair that we come to you, and particularly the carbon element of materials that you're using within your beautiful watches.
Yes. So Horage experience is roughly the same world where we are living, with the materials, with the selection of metals. In fact, in our movement, I said we have 381 components in the movement, but behind the 380 components, you have 1,500 drawings, okay? And in this 1,500 drawings, you have around 25,000 quotations, tolerances we have to respect. I mean, this is our life. However, as an independent company, yes, we have craftspeople in our company who are doing the guilloche, who are doing the enamel, etc. But we have 3 machines. These 3 machines, if we were industrial, we would use it 24 on 24, 24/7. Our constraint is that we have a Rolls-Royce as a machine, and we are using this Rolls-Royce just to buy some croissant in Sunday morning. It means that we are using it very carefully on very precise material. We are spending a lot of time without counting to create the right component. And we are doing a lot of things in-house. For a small company, it's pretty unique, to have industrial machines also. But these machines we are using as an art piece, not as an industrial. Never our machine works 24/7 for any components. We don't have any components like this. So we are creating unique pieces. And of course, we are chasing the new creations, the new components. And these components too are very important. One is carbon, but we don't like carbon epoxy. Okay, we want to go further than the carbon to have hard density carbons we are working right now. And second one are ceramics. We are lucky because, why Switzerland? In Switzerland, we have a value chain network. I call them atomized value chain. Atomized value chain, it means that in 100 kilometer long, you have all the craft possible. And we don't know them. Under every house, you have a guy with 2-3 machines who is a specialist or something, and every day we are discovering a new one. So to belong to this territory is something very important, technologically speaking, and very near of our company and even my house. There is a company called Serra-Marais. Serra-Marais is the king of the ceramics. They did also for Hublot several ceramics with the gold, etc. But they are going every day further. Now we are in discussion with them because in the ceramics now, they introduce new manufacturing system with a kind of special coating procedure, and we are looking with them new applications. And another thing that we discovered also, the colors. Our colors has to be attractive. And we are using the automotive industry. When you do an accident, small accident, with your Ferrari, what do?
I don't think everyone's got a Ferrari, Kalust.
You have to look for the right person able to touch up. And you don't want your Ferrari to have a different color than the original. But with the couple of years you used, the color changed already a little bit. Then there are some specialists who are specialists of doing the right color mixture for the car industry. I found one of them hidden champions, as I said, in the value chain, lost in a small village. And this person is doing exactly the color I want on dial, on case, to fit our straps. So there is no limit in the innovation, and there is no limit to implement art, what I called art before, in all the conception of the watches, of the timepieces.
So it sounds like there's an awful lot of trial and error in the process of building and developing, but does that maybe make sustainability just a bit of a buzzword when within the industry?
Well, we're walking on eggshells now, aren't we? The thing is, what everyone needs to remember, I think, about mechanical watches is you're already buying probably one of the most sustainable things that you will actually probably ever buy in your life. It will outlast you by many, many generations. You know, we all probably have some form of mechanical watch that's been passed down from a father or a grandfather, and it still works and it can still be serviced. And you buy a nice mechanical watch today, there's no reason that can't be used 200 years from now. And they're so well made now compared to what they were even 50 years ago. They will definitely last that long. So actually the sustainability is just in the product. There is a lot of clouds and fluffiness, shall we say, about manufacturing processes and sustainability. Unfortunately, a lot of the innovative materials that we want to use are not the most environmentally friendly. Carbon is pretty dirty, it has to be said. Ceramic's not much better. Aluminiums, titaniums are energy intensive, but not actually by any stretch particularly dirty materials. And all the other core base materials, your brasses and stuff, are pretty straightforward. I think, to circle back a little bit in the innovation, but then into the sustainability, is one of the biggest problems in the watch industry is it's materially changing. The world's gone into a place now where what we need is the two worst things you can have when you want to make something, which is high mix, low volume. People want a little of a lot of different things. And, manufacturing works if you can make a lot of one thing or very little of not very much. And what everyone wants now is options and choices, and they don't want it to be common. They want it to have a rarity to itself.
I think that a lot of what's being driven now, and I completely agree with everything you just said, is the fact that the independent sector has grown and proliferated so much in the last 10 years that pretty much the entire industry is being driven by independents. And I think that gives all of us a lot of opportunity to be the innovators, to be the sustainers. And again, you can open any Bottoms or Sotheby's catalogues and see pocket watches from 1780, 1800 that are still working and still being sold as timepieces today. So I think it's not necessarily about sustainability of individual materials. It's about once those materials are created, how long does that product last? And I think with everything that we're doing as a group, as an industry of independents, I think that's great because it allows us to use those materials and to use them in a way that creates a product for the long term.
Yeah, and it's also strange, mechanical watches is the one thing that nobody in this world actually needs anymore, but we all kind of want it, which is also the opposite of sustainable. We're making lots of things that no one needs that everyone wants. So you've got this kind of like trade-off constantly. But for me as well, the sustainability comes from in how you make things. With the best will in the world, there is massive overcapacity in the watch industry, and there is way too many watches being made currently for what the actual market has got a ability to consume. You don't need to look too hard and you find a huge oversupply of watches. And really, sustainability is actually producing content or producing product in a volume that can be flexed up and down that actually satiates the appetite that's there without overproducing. Because overproducing is the ultimate non-sustainable thing you can do, because unfortunately watches are not particularly recyclable. They will last a long, long time, but once they're built, they're built. You're not going to kind of put it back through an aluminium processor and reuse it in a Coke can. Once it's there, it kind of exists, and if you destroy it, you've just wasted a lot of time, resource, energy and manpower in terms of doing it. So it's about getting the mix. You talked about machines. The big guys just are production lines. They're very good production lines, I have to say, but they are production lines. And they're geared to spit out X number of units a day and keep X number of people working. That's the brutal reality of it. You've got the very small artisanal end of the spectrum, and those guys they make 20 watches a year, they make 50 watches, fine. They'll find 50 homes, no problem, and they do their thing, and they're all very happy. It's the middle ground that we operate in, which is we're in the heart of the two places. You don't have the scale and volume to be price efficient, and you're too big to do small batch volume. And that's where designing production cells, designing production techniques that allow you to have that flexibility and be efficient both cost-wise and time-wise, that's what the industry needs to wake up to. Because the Swiss watch industry is relatively conservative, relatively intransigent in its ways. It doesn't want to change. And if they don't do it, Quartz Crisis 2 will come along, and it will not survive it a second time.
I think both in the way we construct and the things that we do in the independent sector and the way that retail is changing, I think that potential is very high for the traditional brands at this moment, that they are using, old technology. They are, continuing to do the things they've done for decades without really much innovation. And I think our audience is becoming savvy and understanding of such things as you guys are creating movement-wise, as well as beautiful design and everything else we do. And I think that's becoming much more in play for consumers now, to buy things that are, that are not just something that's been done for the last 50 years.
So buy less, buy better.
Yeah. And it has started already. I mean, this is in the public domain now, but one of the big groups, Fossil Group, is applying for bankruptcy as we speak, because they've filed for. They were under Chapter 11, or they were about to be under Chapter 11, and have, let's just say, gone about it in a highly dubious way. But anyway, they've got there, and they filed for bankruptcy because they are in serious trouble. And they're a big volume player within the Swiss watch industry, albeit at an entry price point. But it's a mark of what's coming.
Interestingly, that's a very good point, because periodically that company have sold product by weight to get rid of it. I mean, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of watches sold by weight as scrap. Now, that's not in any way, shape, or form sustainable, or in any way, shape, or form, what any
environmentally conscious.
Sorry?
Not very conscious.
Yeah. So I think what we're doing in the independent sector is that buy less, buy better, buy more innovative, stylish, thought-through product where the end consumer can meet the people who are part of the brand and have influence on, in some instances, of what we do and how we create, because that's the interaction, rather than just buy from a faceless organization where you're getting what you've given, and that's the same product that's been there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, just to build on the discussion, I think sustainability is quite a buzzword, but I think people and consumers today are really thinking about values, right? Like, what is important to them? And it's not really just about the watches itself, it's the full experience of what you're getting as well, including the packaging, all of the waste that comes with that as well. For us at Vieren, we really think about that artisanal end. We make everything in limited edition in small batches because we create collectible goods. Everyone wants the same things, and there's a lot of the world of sameness, as you guys mentioned. So how do we actually elevate watchmaking as a craft? By really highlighting all the time and work that goes into each specific timepiece. And even with our packaging, we actually deliver it with a watch stand as well as a watch box that you can actually use at home and highlight the watch, so you can wear it every day, put it on your nightstand, and actually be a functional piece that is functional as well as look good for this whole purchasing experience. So I think that in addition to just the sustainability piece, it's really about that values piece and what you stand for as a person, as a consumer.
So looking ahead, Dave, where do you see, what is the next wave of innovation? Is it movement design? Is it new materials? Is it digital integration?
I mean, I've not got a crystal ball, but I mean, I can tell you from our perspective, and I maybe give you a quick personal perspective, but from ours, it's the industry needs to innovate, and there's huge amounts of innovation on design, aesthetic, case shapes, materials, look, feel, what you're doing, and that's been driven by what consumers are looking for. Unlike big business, which delivers product and tells you that that's what you want, we can't do that. We have to say, what do you want us to make you, and try and make as near to what you want as we can. For me, though, it's about innovation in the movement area of the watch. That is the single most important part of what makes a mechanical watch a mechanical watch. It could be anything else in it. It could be digital, it could be quartz. But if you want a mechanical watch, the supply chain for mechanical calibers in the industry, so you've got a little bit in Japan at the kind of entry level with Seiko producing a chunk of calibers at the entry level. You've got a little bit out of China from Seagull, and in Switzerland you've got 2 big players. But they will only supply you while it's in their interest to supply you. The one thing that the independent sector doesn't have independence in is the one of the most important parts of their product. And if the brands don't take responsibility for either doing it themselves, which is horribly expensive, time-consuming and painful. We're independent, we did it. It was fun, but it really wasn't fun. But we got there, and we've now got entire top-to-bottom independence. We can do what we want. No one can say, oh no, we're not selling that movement to you anymore, or oh no, you need to suddenly buy a lot more. And that's not a hollow threat. You know, Seagull in China, previously, anyone could buy them. Anyone could buy whatever they wanted from them. A year ago, you now need to buy 10,000 minimum. Good luck buying 10,000 if you're a startup and a new watch brand, because you'll be bankrupt before you even start. And that's the Chinese mass market movement manufacturers. They will all slowly begin to strangle their market, to push price up, because the wholesale cost now of some good quality movements in Switzerland is so low that it's almost not worth them making them either. There's so little money in it for what they're doing. They're working hard, not smart. They will slowly begin over time to strangle that supply, push price up and push volumes up, because they'll make less and charge more for it. That's just what they'll do. And if independents don't have volume to allow them to play in that field, or the ability to do something, get together as little groups and do something, that's when their day of reckoning will come for the independent sector.
Just picking up on that, I think case design, size, materials, all of those things come and go. I've been doing this a long time, and we're back to case sizes that we had when I started in the industry 40 odd years ago. I think that what David's just said is absolutely the most fundamental thing, in that we are at peril of getting into a situation as with ETA in the early 2000s, when everything got strangled and it became painful, that independent brands who are creating movements are going to be the biggest help to the rest of the industry over the next 10 years. And I think, you and I have had long conversations about this, and I think that what Horage are doing is fantastic, the innovation, but also, creating movements that other people can use, that build in an ability for smaller brands to be innovative as well, I think is next level where we need to go, because you all as consumers are getting savvier and savvier and understanding our industry much more, because you're gaining insight, being part of a tribe or a group of people in the independent sector. You're understanding much more of what's happening, and therefore you drive it. You drive where we go next, and I think that is exactly what happens, and that's what's needed. And
for me, it all predicated by one thing: transparency. Yeah, totally. It's the only thing that will save us. Yeah, totally. Is people are being smoked and mirrored by most of the big brands. And we're not just talking watches here. We're talking, in life, it's you're sold the dream, no matter whether the dream's really a nightmare. We all need to remember nightmares fall under the category of dream as well. And for me, it's about, tell the consumer the truth. Just tell them, there's good things, there's bad things, and you don't always get everything you want, but there's usually a reason why you can't have what you want. You don't just say no because here's why. And if you're open and transparent with people, most folk are reasonable. They tend to understand. I mean, the nice thing about watches is we're selling things that people don't need, but you're selling to generally an audience who are relatively well educated, because they have to be working to earn enough money to buy things you don't need. So you're generally speaking to reasonably rational people who might occasionally get a bit upset about something, but when you just talk it through and you're transparent with them, they go, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, good. And then suddenly they're on your side and they root for you. And when you're in a tough time, they're much more likely to stand by your side and actually do something. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think it just behoves us to be better, to be sharper, to work harder, to earn those bucks.
It's like the old saying, isn't it? The best lie is the one you don't tell.
Yep.
Kalust?
For me, innovation is related to benefits. Innovation means customer benefits. Customer benefits is the comfort, the durability, whatever the people are looking for, we have to offer them this benefit. Point. Okay, after call it innovation, new material, whatever, our focus is client satisfaction. My wife gave me a great lesson. Of course, I offered her several watches. But what I realized, Alina, who is a contemporary artist doing a lot of exhibitions all over the world, whatever, she is proud not of my watches, but she is proud of this Swatch Keith Haring watch. Okay, she is a contemporary artist, and she said, but this is me. Okay, and the collection she has. So, what she told me this way, she told me that you, company, you have to select your audience. Your innovation is to understanding your audience, to learn how to talk and how to listen your audience, and then you will create your language, and you will apply what in business people say, marketing mix, you know? Products, place, point of sale, promotion, whatever. You will apply for this audience or these audiences. For me, the future is to be closer to your audience, and everything you do should be not only material benefit of your audience, but also intellectual benefit of your audience. Yeah. For me, this is the future.
Excellent. Wrapping up, I'm just conscious of time. I need to get these people back to selling watches to you guys. Does anyone have a question for our panel? Perfect. Signing off then, Jess, can you just close off the talks? And if you were going to give one piece of advice in terms of someone looking to design a watch today, with everything that you've learned, what advice would that be?
Loaded question. I think it's really about passion. When someone really cares about what they're doing, you can see it, you can feel it, and I love what you said earlier about really that artistry as well, because I think people are really buying from identity, and when you really do something that's authentic to you and come from a design that makes sense, that you're passionate about, that you can communicate, that people really resonate with that message.
Amazing. Look, thank you everyone for attending. If you could just give a big round of applause for our panelists, Dave, Jess, Guy and Kalust. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening. And can you all go and buy a watch now, please? Thank you.